Hi guys, thanks for tuning to this episode of Nick Egan Times. We have an awesome guest on this episode. We have Ben Sorensen. Ben is quirky, eccentric, bearded, media personality, voiceover guy, writer, music lover, presenter of stuff, and unable to leave tall buildings. Hi Ben, and thanks for coming on my podcast.
Well, I'm pleased you mentioned the tall building thing because, no matter how much I try, that's something that I can never, ever do. And I'll take the elevator and not the stairs. So there you go. It's a pleasure to be here, Nick. Thanks for having me.
Welcome. How's it all going down there in Melbourne?
Look, it's actually pretty good. We had at time of recording, we had the Australian Open that was sort of closed for a day, courtesy of COVID, just in case. And everything seems to be opening up and doing okay. So that's really, really positive. We've got our COVID numbers are really, really good down here. So I'm super happy with that, because so much of Victoria, or so much of Melbourne rather, relies on hospitality and events and things like that. So it's really wonderful to see that everyone's being super conscious, super safe, and trying really hard to make sure that we maintain the vibrancy and the life of Melbourne City.
Amazing. All right, let's just jump straight into it for the listeners. Who is Ben Sorensen?
Well, that's a really great question. And, Ben doesn't always talk about Ben in the third person. But, look, I think that for me, I'm just I call myself an Aspie guy wandering through the world trying to feed his brain. And that's pretty much all I do. So in the entertainment sense, I love the mental challenge of being mentally nimble and quick-witted stuff, and hosting a lot of shows and doing the comedy circuit and stuff like that. So I think that's one part of me. And the other part is also looking at the entrepreneurial side of the entertainment industry, producing and creating shows, doing the media and marketing consulting, and working on the strategy side of things. So basically, it sounds like I do a lot. Don't really. It's just full utilization of asset and trying to keep my brain fed, because it's super hungry for knowledge and experiences and things like that. So that's what I have learned to keep myself from going stale, basically, is to do multiple things. And a lot of people do that, They'll have a day job, and then they may have a football team that they're part of, or they might have, a hobby or something, or a passion of some sort outside of that. And that is designed to keep them nimble and to keep them mentally engaged and interested in things. So, the only difference with me is I've chosen to soullessly profit from both sides of it.
Good for you. Yeah, great insights. Tell me about growing up and your family life when you were younger.
I was pretty lucky. I grew up in a little country town called Dayborough, and it was known for its pineapples and cows. And I think that sort of country upbringing was really helpful. I think it's great to be able to go, well, I'm just going to get outside and run around the paddock for 10 hours, really amazing. And, to have such a small town or a small community to be part of, it was challenging, but also very accepting at the same time. And I really think that helped form a lot of my core values that I still hold to today. So yeah, growing up in a small town was wonderful, and I recommend that as many parents get their kids out there and running around in the dirt and hugging cows and doing all sorts of stuff. It was literally an adventure away from a screen. Whereas now we all spend most of our time looking at a screen. Like we have the medium-sized internet that we ditch for the tiny internet, which is our phone. And sometimes we'll have a total break and go to the big internet, which is the TV in the lounge room. So back then, there was none of that. I mean, we watched a little bit of TV in the afternoon, but most of it was adventuring and telling about, stories about what we'd found or what we'd seen or what we'd done. And, that's something that even now when I'm in the concrete jungle of Melbourne City, I still think fondly of. And I still have my holidays in either a farming towns or in the forest or something that connects me with nature, because I think that's so important for that grounding.
Yeah, for sure. Tell me about your passion. So obviously being a TV presenter, and the media obviously is your passion. Tell me about that.
I love technology, and I love how technology changes. And one of the great ways for me to embrace that and use that and show it off a bit is through TV or video. So there's so many amazing gizmos and gadgets that you only have the opportunity or excuse to buy and use if you're doing media. And I love that. But I'm really passionate, not so much, also about the technology, but more so about telling stories and having experiences. I mean, you started this podcast for a similar reason, to uncover some of these really engaging and interesting stories that are out there in the world. And, we share that passion, which I love.
Yeah.
And that's what I enjoy most about the video format. I love audio. I did a lot of work in just audio only, but I think video provides such an additional layer or an additional depth to being able to tell stories and really immerse people in whatever you're doing. It's also a lot more exciting.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and you can visualize it too. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So video and TV, definitely a passion. But, having said that, in my time off, I really enjoy musicals, and I really enjoy going to the theatre and listening to some of the wonderful and creative musicians that we have in this country. And, I adore traveling back in the dark ages when you could do that and seeing what different cultures are like, different languages. And I think there's such a depth to the human condition that, it's worthy of that exploration, whether it be for work or simply for your own edification.
Yeah, for sure. Have you done much traveling internationally, domestically?
Yes, domestically, I travel a heap, or I used to. This is all in the dark ages, pre-COVID. I used to travel all over Australia, although it seemed to focus on the East Coast, thanks to our centralised population, doing a whole heap of shows, touring around with Supernova, which is like the Australian Comic-Con, and that was such a wonderful experience getting to, experience that in each capital city. It's just really wonderful, and it looks like I'll be back doing that again this year too. So I'm very, very humbled and grateful to be able to do that and to travel with them. And overseas, I like to head to Ireland, the Republic of Ireland. I think it's just such beautiful countryside there and some lovely people, and they get my sense of humour, which is kind of handy. And also Germany. I do a lot of time down in the south of Germany, which is, again, lovely. They don't get my sense of humour at all, but they're very kind, and we laugh lots anyway.
Yeah, cool. And what are you working on currently? So obviously, I know you mentioned earlier that you're doing some festivals. And
eating better, sleeping more consistently, trying to look after my health. No, I'm actually working on a comedy festival venue, which I'm very excited about. We're doing look, thanks to COVID, it's a small venue, but we've got some really big personalities and some really big comedy there, which is just really exciting. So we're putting that together, and we'll be doing an announcement in conjunction with the Melbourne Comedy Festival in the next week or so. So keep an eye out on the socials and everything, where we'll be vlogging that. And also, outside of my venue that I'm working on, we're really fortunate here in Australia and also in Melbourne to have the world's second largest comedy festival just on our doorstep, just right there. And I was just really, really stoked about it every year when, you know, the world's best comedians just sort of descend on Melbourne. And it's such a wonderful melting pot of ideas and creativity and people that, you know, are just passionate about observing the human condition and talking about, you know, those different styles of comedy and different cultures and how we make each other laugh and, you know, what that does to us as a culture and as a race of people. And I just find that really fascinating. So, yes, so I'm doing that, the comedy festival thing, which is really great. I'm doing some presenting work, at the Australian Open, which is exciting. So you can have a sticky beak at that. That'll be online somewhere as well. And, yeah, doing some amazing work at the moment with a environmental organization called EcoForce Global. I'm very, very lucky to be working with them. So, their whole point, of being is to reduce the, atmospheric carbon levels through planting trees. And they have this amazing system where they actually guarantee the tree's going to live. And if it doesn't, they'll replace it to make sure that it actually does absorb all that carbon from the atmosphere. So, I'm just really lucky to be working with some really great organizations and some wonderful festivals that align with some really good values. And when you have those organizations with great values, you tend to find really good people there as well. And I'm very fortunate to have done that.
Excellent. You've been voiceover before. What are some of the stuff you worked on doing that?
I did, I've done lots of stuff. And, you know, a lot of times, when I'm out, someone will go, oh yeah, I remember that thing you did. And I'll go, I don't remember that. And part of that is because when you're doing, particularly with ads or shorter stuff, the script comes in, you're in the box and you read it and then it goes. And you don't really think about it too much. You might read it a couple of times, but it's not, you know, super stuck in your head like it is when it's on air and it's been playing not back to back annoyingly for 6 months or 12 months. But, I'm really lucky to have done a whole heap of work in, with music tours and promotions. And I really, really love that work. I did a whole heap of voiceovers for Boney M when they came out to Australia. I did the 50th anniversary for the Monkees, which I love. And, you know, look, I'm pleased you're sitting down. I can see because you've got a camera thing. I can see you sitting down. So this is a big one. Peter Andre.
Oh, nice. How good's that?
Yeah. Amazing. I just had to pinch myself and I went, oh, dude, I peaked too early. Like total highlight. Yeah, so I've done some stuff for the Palace of Andre Rieu, which I thought was wonderful.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots of music stuff. I'll do, you know, a few voice acty things, which I enjoy as well. There's a couple of kids' educational resources, which I'm also really passionate about. That you'll find me voicing, you know, an alligator here and there, or a train. I did the voice of Shane the Australian Train in some of the Thomas the Tank Engine stuff, Thomas the Tank Engine fan stuff. And I went, oh, that doesn't count. It's not real. And then I checked out the numbers and I went, there's actually a really huge following for that. And that's one of the wonderful things about doing the voiceover work is you're plugged into all of these great projects. And for me, I've just gone, I didn't even know half of this stuff existed. And then you read for it and you check it out later and you go, that's actually really good. Not so much my part, but collectively, the project is really great and it's really interesting. So I found a whole heap of really amazing creatives out there that have been putting together some really high-level stuff that I never, ever would have known existed until they, you know, picked up the phone and said, hey, Benny, can you do this for me? Or, you know, do you want to have a crack at that? And I go, yeah, all right, fair enough. So, yeah, voiceovers I really love. Really, really love. And they're one of the things that I can actually continue to do through lockdown, which made my life a little bit easier. because I can still go to work.
Exactly. And you've been on MTV and TV. What are some of the stuff that I would recognise or we would recognise that you've done being on?
Most of the stuff that I've done is is basically just my voice. I did I did Sharky's Friends, which was kids' TV show on Channel 9. This was years ago. Did some stuff. I did a lot of stuff for 3RW and 4BC. Had some regular segments on there. Did breakfast radio on the Sunshine Coast. And, lots of other bits and pieces. And I think that when we look at some of those things, it's such a great community to be part of, when you're in a small town like Brisbane, which is where I started, where you can just sort of hop across and do some radio and then do some TV, do some live events, and then do a whole heap of publishing. I did a heap of writing for Like It Style magazine, Home magazine, and Insight magazine as well. So, it's one of those things where you go, how can I communicate with an audience through many different ways and many different mediums? And that was one of the great things. And I've, like you said before, had some great opportunities to do some stuff on some very, very big networks.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. I read you interviewed Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I did. And that was such a wonderful experience. Actually, it was on her Red tour when she came out to Australia. And it was just such a joy because I met her and spent some time with her and her mum, who was out for that. And, it was just really wonderful how open she was about not only herself and her music, but also the business side of her business as well, of her music world. And one of the key takeaways that I had from that time was that Taylor Swift is a very kind human, and also a very intelligent human as well, which is really wonderful. And she has a separation between herself and Taylor Swift, the brand. So when I in jest earlier said Ben doesn't always talk about Ben in the third person, when she's talking about herself, she'll talk about, me, I, and when she's talking about Taylor Swift, the brand, she'll reference it in the third person to keep that separation so you don't feel like you're constantly owned by the rest of the world. So, there was that, and there was, she was, her mum was very talkative, and they had a very big passion for horses and equestrian stuff. So, we ended up talking about that for a little bit. But, yeah, it was just a really wonderful experience. And obviously, the theatrics of the Red Tour were just simply amazing. And even if we look at the consistency of Taylor Swift and her work, she's dropping 2 albums in a year. I mean, that's pretty impressive. And doing a lot of the other stuff. I feel like there was that, obviously, Taylor and I are very different levels. But, you can see and you can understand the need to stay stimulated and to stay interested and to stay engaged, with the range of work and the range of quality work that Taylor's done, excluding Cats the movie, because that was shit.
Who's the most famous person you probably ever interviewed, and who's your favourite?
Look, I really enjoyed, Taylor was wonderful. That was, such a whirlwind experience. There was, I remember in, Nashville, I was there for CMA, and I think at the time I was a finalist for International Broadcaster of the Year or something. But there was a press conference, and you know what? In Nashville, in Australia, as media, you go to press conferences all the time, and you go, "Oh yeah, cool, I get it. This is what happens." Little Benny went to the States, And I went, all right, let's do all of these press conference things. And I went, yeah, all right, fair enough. And CMO were really wonderful in, getting a media pass market all happen and introducing me because new country, didn't know anyone, and just Aussie guy with a big hat wandering around. And every press conference that I went, I actually wanted to go to more press conferences simply because every single one of them had a Dunkin' Donuts table.
Wow.
Every single one. So there was tea, coffee, water, bagels, with 4 different types of cream cheese and a whole heap of these donuts. And I'm just going, I never want to leave. This is great. I don't think I bought a meal the whole time I was there. It's brilliant. So, back to the question. So, I was at, LP Stadium. I think it's called LP Stadium in Nashville, and it's one of their smaller stadiums by American standards, which is just giant by Australian standards. So, I deliberately went for a walk to the top, and I seriously understand why they call it the nosebleed section. So, in the belly of this stadium is where they held the press conference for the just before the big CMA conference, the CMA concert that they had in there. So anyway, I'm sitting down here. Luke Bryan comes in and is chatting, and I'm eating a donut, going, "Oh yeah, this is a bit all right." And then Keith Urban comes through, and being the only Australian in the room, Keith was answering questions from everyone, and he picked up the Australian accent, and I had a wonderful conversation with him in the press conference there, and I thought, oh yeah, this is pretty cool. I got to chat to Keith Urban. That's really great. He's such a witty, great fella. Sure. And that was just amazing. And I went, oh, this is really, couldn't top that. Absolutely couldn't top that. Mm-hmm. So polite little me, it does happen sometimes, got to had a chat with one of the, organizers. And I went, oh, look, I'd really love to watch the show. Can I buy a ticket? Is there a seat for me? And she's looked at my pass and gone, I don't know what you're talking about. Just walk up there and check it out. So here's me, little Aussie Ben, standing side stage, watching, all of these great performers on the big stage there. And, so I'm standing here, just had a chat with Keith Urban there, and I look across, and there's Nicole Kidman standing on the other side.
Wow.
And Lenny Kravitz on stage. And I'm just going, that's pretty awesome. It's those moments that you just go, it's not so much the interview, but it's just, I find when people are on show and, and that's totally okay to do that. This is who they are. But then in those quiet moments or those in-between moments, I think you see more honesty about who they are, so, I mean, that was wonderful. She was also, again, I didn't talk to her. I just saw her from afar, not in a creepy way, but just other side of the stage. And, it was lovely. Although now that I'm talking about that, another great experience, Zach Brown Band, who I met, while I was in the States, came out to tour, and they did some shows with Jason Mraz ages ago at the Sydney Myer Music Bowl down here. Great venue. Really, really awesome. And they were the support act. They played. They did some cool stuff. Zach loves cooking. So he was cooking up his great food for everyone. And I thought, okay, so I've had a chat with Zach. All good. On stage, side of the stage again, going, oh, Jason Mraz is on there. I'll just have a sticky beat. Check it out side stage. Again, really awesome performer. Really great live show. And I'm there looking, just sort of bopping along, going, yeah, this is pretty cool. Look at all those people out there. Look at what's happening here. And then I turn to the other side, and who should I see bopping along with me but Bruce Springsteen?
Oh, wow.
And I'm just going, holy crap.
Yeah.
So it's those little moments that stick in my memory that I just go, I am so happy with those moments. To have just those honest moments with, or shared by some of those amazing humans. So yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, there was
And also
moments that I was...
also the donuts. I really like the donuts.
Yeah, those moments will be like, you'll never forget them, and they really, like, when you've got it as your passion of what you do, they really help, and just, you know, like, it just makes you so much more happier and fun, I believe, anyway.
Oh, absolutely. You know, absolutely. Oh,
What other passions?
I was going to say the other exciting time was I was doing a corporate gig in Sydney, and Tony Abbott.
Yeah, I know Tony. He's my local member in my area.
Yeah, there you go.
He was.
Tony Abbott until they, snapped his misogynistic self up and took him to the homeland. So I was doing this corporate gig up there, and it was actually Tony Abbott's sister was one of the event managers. So unbeknownst to me, we ended up having this wonderful conversation, and I've gone, are you sure that you're related to Tony? Because you're a lovely person and really interesting to talk to and have some really logical, fact-based, progressive views. Wow. That's amazing. So anyway, that was really cool. And incidentally, at that same function, I was introducing and interviewing Malcolm Turnbull, who was then Minister for Communication, or as Tony Abbott said, the man who created the internet, which is totally inaccurate because he didn't, and even if he did, the NBN doesn't work well enough to be considered as an achievement. Anyway, continue.
That's true. What are your hobbies and interests in your downtime? So obviously you've got a busy schedule and you do a lot of other stuff. What do you like to do just to relax? And
I have some guilty pleasures on Netflix and Amazon that I enjoy. So a lot of times what I'll do, I'll get brain dead from high energy work day, and what I'll do is I'll sit down, and I don't mind Midsummer Murders, because it's weirdly comforting that they just bumble along in a little town somewhere. I'm enjoying The Good Place at the moment. I think that inspires a lot of my extracurricular reading. So definitely check it out. A lot of my extracurricular reading at the moment, courtesy of The Good Place, is all about philosophy and psychology as well, and how the two sort of intertwine. So I find that fascinating. And I'll read, I do a fair bit of reading. I like reading peer-reviewed journals to answer questions that I have. So when we talk about, anti-vaxxers and stuff like that out in the world, I go, oh, okay, cool. So I wonder what's in the vaccines, or I wonder what the research is, or, oh, everyone says this. So where's the research? Let me actually read the actual research. So I really enjoy doing that, and I find that I learn so much, and it gives me so much more respect for the scientific community. I'm not a scientist, but I really respect it, and I'm just really interested in so much of the great research they're doing.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
That's a hobby. Doesn't sound like a hobby, but it's a hobby.
No, I totally get it. Yeah, I totally get it. Like, especially science, it's the way it's headed, and it's progressive too. Yeah, I can tell. If you were 18 again, and you could do things differently, or you had your time over again, what would you do differently?
Honestly, I would try to dismantle and get rid of my ego as quickly as possible. Understand that happiness is not something that you find from a destination from outside yourself, but a destination within yourself. And learn that having a lot of money is really helpful. So, not for the reasons that we all think, but more so that money buys freedom in our society. It's not that I want to be successful or popular or flaunt it. It's just it buys freedom. Okay, so you're tired. Okay, well just get an Uber home. Doesn't matter. You want the upsize at Macca's? Not a big deal. You want to go to a store and you need new clothes? Cool, just tap the card. Doesn't matter. There's a lot of freedom and a lot of relaxation or less stress, rather, that comes from that, because you go, I know that all my basic needs are covered. And I think that rather, they used to say, focus on what you love and the rest will happen. And I think that concept I probably would have told myself when I was 18 probably needs to evolve a bit. That yes, that's important, but it's also important to make sure that you've got your bread and butter covered. You know, you've got a roof over your head and you've got your passive income coming through, and to work on that earlier, because time is such a big factor when it comes to wealth, which is why we see a lot of intergenerational family wealth that grows way more than what most of us could do in a lifetime. Not in a bad way, but just, you know, if I could tell my younger self that, it would be that. Have a healthy relationship with money and understand its freedom and its power and how to acquire it ethically.
Yeah, that's great insights, and thanks for sharing. Ben, thanks for joining my podcast. I do appreciate it. I wish you all the success with everything you're doing in 2021.
Thanks so much, mate, and thanks for creating a wonderful podcast where I can tell these stories and where, you know, you can create some really great content with a whole heap of other people. So, look, thank you.